Are your arms more twig than tree trunk? Are they more wet noodle and less stuffed cannelloni? Did your gun show get cancelled because of lack of ticket sales? If that sounds like you, then I feel you. I used to be you. I'm 193 centimeters tall with a 2-meter wingspan. That is 6'4" with a 6'7" wingspan if you use freedom units. But through years of suffering and hard work, I finally figured out how to full out my frame and actually build a set of triceps and biceps that would be pretty impressive on anyone. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to cut out the noise, skip the nonsense, and build your arms as efficiently as possible. Step 1 is frequency. What I realized way too late is that your arms simply will not grow if you throw in a set of biceps or triceps maybe right at the end of your workout as a sort of afterthought, when you're already pretty mentally tapped out of the workout. If I could share one tip about natural optimal muscle growth that I've learned over the years, it is this: what gets hit first gets hit hardest. So if you can bump up your frequency for an exercise, but also train that muscle group earlier in the workout, that muscle group is likely to grow better. And if you want bigger arms in particular, you have to treat them as a priority, like you would any other muscle group. And what worked the best for me was training with a higher frequency. This meant training biceps and triceps 3 times a week. Not with excessive volume, but with high frequency and high intensity. This high frequency approach only works if the volume isn't that high. So I would only do 3 to 4 working sets in each workout, but I would make sure that these sets count. So I chose 3 exercises for the biceps, 3 exercises for the triceps, and 1 exercise for the forearm. The first exercise for the biceps that I credit a lot of my bicep growth to is the dumbbell incline curl. You want to set your bench up to about 40 degrees and make sure when you're doing this exercise that you're not using any momentum, you're pausing at the bottom, you're really grinding through the sticking point in the middle of the exercise, and you're pushing every set like you mean it. Incline dumbbell curls are fantastic because your shoulder is slightly behind the body at the beginning of every rep. Very simply put, what this means biomechanically is your shoulder starts in a little bit of extension, which almost pre-stretches your bicep, which makes this exercise really challenging for your bicep when it's most lengthened. Everyone that I've shared this exercise with tells me that they have an insane mind-muscle connection with their biceps when they do this, and it leaves their biceps sore for days. This is an absolute must and an absolute staple for any bicep routine, in my opinion. The second exercise are actually preacher curls, and this exercise gets a lot of flack because people say that starting with your elbows in front of you means that your biceps are pre-shortened and therefore it's not optimal for muscle growth. People also say that they don't feel their biceps working that hard on a preacher curl, and I've got a couple of thoughts about this. Firstly, a preacher curl you can go pretty heavy, so the progression opportunity is there, which is really cool for progressively overloading over the kind of time frame that I'm talking about, like 6 months to a year. Also, we do want to challenge our muscles in different lengths. We want some shortened contraction biased exercise and some lengthened biased exercises. Just because our arms start in front of us during a preacher curl doesn't mean the range of motion isn't very good, and doesn't mean this isn't a good exercise for muscle growth. I love doing this exercise with an easy bar on a typical preacher bench setup, but what I've been experimenting recently with is doing a single arm high angle dumbbell preacher curl, which is an insane mind muscle connection. My biceps are on fire doing this exercise. You can also throw in some forced reps at the end of your set by using your other hand to help. What's good about the dumbbell is the bicep doesn't just bend the elbow, it also supinates the wrist, so we can almost think about lifting the weight with our pinky, which gives you an amazing contraction at the top of the high angle dumbbell preacher curl. The preacher curl is a great choice just because it has a huge ceiling for progression and it just feels really good, and it also takes our bicep through a long range of motion. And unlike the incline dumbbell curl, you start with your elbow in front of you, so you're training the bicep in a slightly different way, which I think bodybuilders have known for years is a good idea for muscle growth. And then my third exercise that I attribute to a lot of my bicep gains is an overly hated exercise in my opinion, which is the dumbbell hammer curl.
Hammer curls are stupid, and if you do them, so are you. News tonight at 11.
Hammer curls do get a lot of flack because people say it's not an optimal bicep exercise, it's got too much forearm involvement. And my response to this would be, yeah, sure, it doesn't hit your biceps as hard as some other curling variations. It also hits your brachioradialis, which is one of the forearm muscles that helps bend the elbow. And it also hits your brachialis, which is another elbow flexor that is underneath the bicep. What I would say though is that these muscles are still very aesthetic on a male physique, and they do give the bicep a little bit of lift because the brachialis, when it gets hypertrophied, almost pushes the bicep up. It makes the bicep peak appear more impressive and makes the arm look fuller overall. Also, you can go extremely heavy on hammer curls, which means you can progress them for months and months and months. And if stability mobility ever comes an issue, you can happily just do hammer curls seated. Doing 3 to 4 sets of dumbbell incline curls, easy bar preacher curls, and standing dumbbell hammer curls for a year made my arms explode, guys. You can easily throw these in at the end of a leg day or before an upper body session, and you can start to make amazing bicep gains. And in terms of triceps, these are my 3 go-to exercises. Number 1 is to do cable pushdowns with a straight bar. This is a phenomenal exercise. It's a contraction focused exercise with the weight in front of us, but it's phenomenal because it's incredibly stable. It's got enormous progression potential. Straight bar tricep pushdowns tend to feel really good on my wrists and my elbows, and the mind muscle connection with my triceps is elite. I've done these for 3 to 4 sets a week for over a year now, and now I can comfortably rep like 45 kilos or 100 pounds for 12 to 15 reps. In order to bias the long head of the tricep, the so-called tricep sweep that you can see the best during a front double bicep pose, you need to do some overhead work because this muscle crosses both the shoulder and the elbow joint. My favorite overhead variation for triceps is the overhead rope extension, but I do this in a slightly different way than most people. I set up the cable stack about in line with my shoulders, and then I actually bend over and use the post of the cable stack for support. This makes unracking and re-racking the weight much easier and gives me some external support when the weight gets heavy. With this exercise, you can get an amazing range of motion, a massively deep stretch, and again, a great mind muscle connection with the long head of the tricep. Another good variation that you could also do, which I have thrown in from time to time, is an overhead dumbbell extension with either 1 arm or 2 arms. The fixed path of the dumbbell doesn't always agree with people's elbows, but this is a fine alternative as well. But the overhead rope extension feels amazing for my triceps. And finally, the easy bar Skullcrusher. I put the bench flat and I choose an easy bar and think about tucking my elbows and lowering the weight under control to make sure that this exercise doesn't upset my wrists or my elbows. I also don't always do a full lockout with this free weight exercise for your triceps, just because there isn't a lot of tension on the muscle at the top of the exercise, so I almost do some pulsing reps. I love the control, the range of motion, and the progression ability on easy bar skull crushers. A lot of people find dumbbells don't upset their elbows at all, so you could also do a skull crusher with dumbbells. But I promise, guys, if you slowly progress your tricep pushdowns, your overhead rope extensions, and your easy bar skull crushers over the course of 6 to 12 months, you will have noticeably bigger horseshoe triceps. And that leads us to intensity, guys. This section of the video is the most simple to explain. The non-negotiable aspect of training your arms to get them bigger is that every set should be taken to failure, bar none, with no excuses. If you're finishing your set and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I probably could have done 2 more reps, then congratulations, you just did a warm-up set. Damn! There's absolutely no reason why you should leave any reps in the tank on your arm sets. If you say to me, I did 10 to 12 reps because that's what the program said to do. No, just keep going. If you get 12 reps, try a 13th, and if you get 13th, try a 14th. The systemic fatigue from isolation lifts for your biceps and triceps is basically non-existent. There is zero reason why you should not be training to failure. If you say that training to failure hurts your joints, then maybe you need to choose different exercises, but the exercises that I've listed are never going to be heavy enough to really upset your joints. And if your elbows or wrists are upsetting you, then maybe there's something else that's wrong with your program. But in terms of intensity, every single rep counts, and a set just won't be that effective for muscle building if it's 2 to 3 reps from failure. The natural instinct that every guy has that I speak to when they want to build their arms is they throw a whole lot of volume at biceps and triceps. They throw in new exercises, they train their biceps and triceps every day, they add a bunch of sets, they do like 7 working sets per workout. Guys, you don't need any of that. You just need to do 3 exercises 3 times a week for 3 to 4 sets and push the sets that you're already doing way harder than you think you can. You can go so much harder on biceps and triceps than you think you can. You don't need marathon sessions. You just need to push your sets to the point where your arms are begging for mercy. Your sets should be so tough that it should be difficult to drive out of the gym when you're done training your arms. And by the way, guys, if you don't already know, my name is Jake. I'm a men's nutrition and fitness coach, and the applications for coaching are in the description of this video. And that leads me to the last part of this video, which is progression. Guys, your bicep and tricep sets are going to progress painfully slowly, but you still need to continue to record the sets. For some reason, guys seem to think it's a good idea to record their sets on their legs, their chest, and their back workouts, but when it comes to arms,
they just train by feel, bro.
Guys, the only way you can know if you're progressively overloading is if you actually record every single set that you do. And for context, guys, going up in weight with light dumbbells is really difficult. The difference between 12 and 14 kilos might just sound around like 2 kilos or 5 pounds. But that 2 kilos is a massive percentage. It's almost 20% of the weight. That's a huge jump to jump up by 20%. It is totally normal to be staying on the same weight for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and just adding a rep or two every week. 1 rep of progress every week for a year is a massive amount of progress. If you can do that consistently, you will have much bigger arms by the end of that year. Instead of ego lifting and instead of not tracking your workouts for whatever reason, I would suggest working in a fairly big rep range, probably 10 to 15 reps, maybe even 10 to 20 reps, and then slowly and methodically add a few reps when you can and add little bits of weight maybe once a month. Some weeks you might even not PR from the week before, which is totally fine. If you're still training to failure and you're still feeling it in the target muscle, it is working. And by the way, guys, if you want to grow your forearms as well, apart from the hammer curls, I would also suggest doing some cable wrist curls. I like setting them up on a cable stack with a cable stack right at the bottom and using a thumbless grip so I really focus on my wrist flexor muscles. So that about sums up the video, guys. Even with a 6'7" wingspan and the physique of a garden rake, I was able to build some pretty impressive arms. If I can do it, you can do it too. The formula is simple. Train your arms more often with more intensity. Stick to simple exercises that you progress for a very long time. Take every single set you do for your arms to failure, no exceptions. And play the long game with progression. Be disciplined, add a rep here and a little bit of weight there. And track your lifts every single time you go into the gym. If you do that, then your arms won't just fill out your sleeves. You'll be going up a t-shirt size. And guys, another scientifically proven way to get bigger arms is to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. The applications for coaching are in the description of this video. You can also find my ultimate fat loss guide, which teaches you how to lose fat, how to think about food, and has high protein recipes for every meal of the day in the description of this video. And if this is the first one of my videos that you've ever seen, I recommend watching this video next, which teaches you how intense you need to train to build muscle as efficiently as possible. And it teaches you some of the most simple mistakes that you may inadvertently be making. I'll see you in that one.